All right, so this is chapter gas chambers. And I'm going to pull up the first question first. All right. The Nazi priority was efficiency. All right, so they didn't, like, the Nazis didn't just drag people off. They really were looking to try to do this organized, quickly. They didn't just use fear. That was kind of the last resort, really. Well, I wouldn't say blatant fear, like gun in your face kind of fear. There might be, they definitely use like anxiety pretty early on where, they threaten, but the most efficient way was to try to manipulate, because then you could deal with a large group of people that would listen, versus trying to fight thousands of people. So if you can manipulate them, that's better than, having to fight every day. So they had various things that they did. Now, this guy in here, this is Heinrich Himmler, who is, to me, probably, like, honestly, like, worse than Hitler. Because he went in and saw these concentration camps. He was the leader of the Nazi SS, which were, like, the elite Aryan race soldiers. They were in charge. They were the most loyal to Hitler. They were, on a whole other level. So he was in charge of them. And so he would go to these places, and essentially he would see this and did not feel anything. Did not, just felt completely like this is exactly what we need to do. And then of course made other people believe that as well, and just keeping this up. So he's almost like, I would say, kind of the second in command, or definitely high up. All right, so most of the death camp victims walked willingly into the gas chambers simply because they had no idea they were about to die. Nazi trickery had deceived them from the time they boarded the cattle trains to the moment the gas chamber doors slammed behind them. So here, these people are, this is when they're like walking, I'm assuming, considering we've got barbed wire, this is when they arrived, and they'd start sorting them. So women kind of one side, small children. All right. The Nazi killing operation had one priority: efficiency. The plan was to kill as many people in as short a time as possible with no resistance or delay. Consequently, the Nazis bent over backward to keep their victims calm and unaware of their true fate. So number one is true. And I think number two is in there too. Nazis tried to get people very upset and combative, so that's false. All right. The SS passed out work permits, so it seemed like the Jews were being sent off somewhere to work. I have to kind of chuckle at that because it's just so, looking back, it's so ridiculous. All right. Here's the same thing again, and yeah, so if anybody's starting to get rowdy, then they break out the guns. Very simple. The big game began with deportation to the death camps, telling Jews they were to be resettled in the East for labor. The SS passed out work permits, reminded all to bring tools and work clothing, and suggested that money be exchanged for foreign currency before travel to save the time and trouble of doing it later in their new homes. So true for number 3. Jews had been sent postcards that had been written at gunpoint. So 3 is true. Many Jews who willingly boarded Eichmann's trains, so this is just a person who was in charge of the trains, remembered the postcards that they'd received from relatives who had gone before them. Their cards had reassured, "We are well. Everything is fine here. We have food and work." Little did the new travelers know that the cards had been written at gunpoint. So yes, written at gunpoint. So this made people really think, oh yeah, it's totally fine. The Nazis starved the Jews right from the beginning, never offering food, not even as a bribe. I mean, the way that question is written, you should be able to tell what the answer is. The SS also used food as bait to board the trains. To the starving Jews in the Polish ghettos, they offered bread and jelly to eat along the way. To those whose hunger was unbearable, that alone was enough inspiration to go. So false for number 5. Arbeit macht frei means upon arrival at the camp, those too ill or too weak to walk were told to board Red Cross trucks that would take them to a rest camp. In reality, the trucks headed straight away to the gas chambers. At Auschwitz, the sign at the main gate, "Work means freedom," was a big lie too. So that's this one. And when families being separated during selection began to panic, the guards eased their fears by promising they'd be reunited after baths and delousing. So delousing is to get rid of lice. So this is the entrance. All right. Work means freedom. Jews were told they were going to get baths, but in the shower heads there was gas. Baths, delousing, after days on end without soap and water in the trains, and the never-ending torment of body lice from the infested railroad cars, nothing could have sounded better to the weary travelers. To keep their victims' spirits up, SS chiefs in some of the camps ordered the camp orchestra, often made up of the finest Jewish musicians in Europe, to play cheerful music to accompany the crowds on their walk to the baths. Wait, I totally forgot the question. Oh, all right. Didn't get to that part yet. Okay. So here are some of the gas chambers. I'm trying to see. I don't really see the shower heads in this one. I'm wondering if this is Dachau, honestly, because they had started installing showers in Dachau. Here's one where you can tell that here are the shower heads, so they're up here. And so the gas would go through them, but it looked, like showers. Sure enough, the walkers soon stopped before a large, modern-looking building on which a sign reading "Baths" was posted. The building really housed both the gas chamber and the crematoria. So here's the inside. This would probably be people. They would end up completely taking their clothes off. That way, the clothes could be essentially reused, because why spend money burning that on top of it? And so here are the shower heads. So, yeah. The game went on and on. Once inside, Jews were sometimes given towels and soap. They were told to tie their shoes together, to arrange their clothing neatly, and to remember the spot where their belongings were located in order to avoid confusion in finding them after bathing. When the doors of the gas chamber swung open, a look upward usually calmed the nervous Jews' fears. Showerheads, really gas jets, completed the picture of Nazi trickery. So, true on number 7. Eight. The Sonderkommando was made of Nazis. So special command is what this is, like group of, yeah. All right. Here is one of the gas cans. They would put the bits of it into the pipes to push through. And of course, they would have the gas mask. The Nazis would have the gas masks, so they wouldn't be affected. I need to delete that. It was not until the doors slammed shut and the lights blinked out that the big game was over. Mad scrambling and dreadful screaming always began when the trapped Jews detected the first traces of gas. But the tumult died down within 10 minutes or so. Scanning the scene within from an outside peephole, the SS on duty then gave a signal for the giant exhaust fans to start up. The fans were part of the game too. They pulled out the remaining telltale fumes to clear the air for the next incoming group. Wearing gas masks, men on duty dragged the bodies to elevators that carried the corpses to the crematoria on the lower level. Before the bodies were fed to the furnaces, other workers along the death assembly line searched the victims' mouths and yanked out gold teeth and fillings. The skull would later be melted down and reshaped into bars to enrich the Reichsbank. Called Sonderkommando, the camp prisoners forced to do all this dirty work in the crematoria and gas chambers were usually Poles or Jews. After 3 or 4 months of such duty, they were put to death, for the Nazis wanted no living witnesses to their crimes. So, it was not made up of Nazis. It was actually made up of other Jews, other prisoners. And of course, they would keep their mouths shut because they didn't want to die. Jews were burned to ashes in crematoriums. There is a dark comic called Sonderkommando, and it kind of displays how this works and was. So we've got screams, oh God, this guy, shut up. You knew this was going to happen, and you didn't say a word? Go ahead, tell them yourself next time. Then they can panic, and you can watch the Germans beat and shoot the children before they gas them. Welcome to the Sonderkommando. All right. Nazi lies combined with modern death machinery worked all too well. At Auschwitz, where 4 giant-sized chambers were designed to hold 2,000 people at once, the camp commander, Rudolf Hess, so he's specifically in charge of Auschwitz, had also hit upon a new and deadly gas called Zyklon B. Normally used as a strong disinfectant, Zyklon B, a bluish crystalline substance, produced a highly toxic gas strong enough to snuff out 2,000 lives in 5 or 6 minutes. To keep up with the disposal of so many bodies, Hess ordered the 4 crematoria to operate around the clock. So this is, literally a full-scale killing system. It's like in and out, assembly line, essentially, of death. Yes.
Before I say anything next, this is obviously very, very horrible.
Yeah.
So if I'm being completely honest, I kind of have to hand it to the Nazis. That was smart.
Yeah,
it was horrible, but dang, that was smart.
The system, they started off one way and they just got essentially better and better at it. So it was a very, they achieved that efficiency that they were going for. And if Hitler wouldn't have invaded Russia and America wouldn't have gotten involved, they would have definitely ended up being successful in this. So yeah, they tested out different gases. So they essentially found the best one. They did all sorts of experiments. I mean, so there's a lot of like messed up stuff, but in a sense, it was definitely smart the way they did it because of how effective it was. So, I mean, most of your villains are, I mean, well, some of them are going to be stupid, but some of them are going to be, this is one of those villains that is like super smart. So when you go like, who else? Who are some villains that are super smart? Like Lex Luthor? Anybody else? Anybody know? Some villains that are like, yes, Doctor Doom, yes. Anybody else know anything? You can also put it in the chat. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Somehow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a genius of being a maniac.
Yeah, so I mean, there's plenty of, like, smart doesn't mean nice. Like, intelligent doesn't mean nice. So these are one of those, I guess, intelligent, terrible people. All right. Here's the little pieces of the gas. So first it's going to start off as a solid, right? And you're going to probably mix it to dilute it so it can actually go through the shower heads. All right. Wait, what was the next question? Oh, I forgot. Oh, burned in crematoriums. Okay. Okay, yeah, here we are. Utilizing such efficiency, Auschwitz began to process 12,000 Jews every single day. That's bananas. 12,000 people dead every single day. 12,000. It's craziness. This meant that 12,000 human beings were killed, their bodies reduced to ashes, and their belongings, shoes, eyeglasses, tools, clothing, jewelry, money, toys, suitcases, baby carriages, all sorted and shipped to collection centers within 24 hours. So, yeah, this is all shoes. All shoes that they would then sort through, pick the ones that were decent and sell them as used shoes. This, at first, I didn't know what this was. These are all glasses. Like, I mean, it's insane. Like, imagine. And suitcases. Just piles and piles of this stuff. And so even if you were to, like, sell this for, like, cheap, you're still going to be making money. So, true on 9. True. Because in the beginning, again, they would dig graves. Well, by they, I mean they would have the Jews dig graves and then shoot them. Well, that's kind of tedious. So, if you burn them to ashes, you don't have to dig a grave. And most of your evidence is, I mean, it's there, but it's not blatant. And you could distribute those ashes somewhere to where you wouldn't be able to, really distinguish. I mean, if you went there to, like, liberate the camp, like, you look around and you're like, what in the world? And then you see it, you're like, I believe this was used for burning people instead of, or bodies anyway. All right. According to the chart, there were blank million victims of Auschwitz, one of the death camps. So Auschwitz is the one that had the most. And the reason we know this stuff is because they would number the people, and they kept records of everything. So I don't exactly completely understand why they had to get rid of evidence, because there was so much that they kept a hold of. All right, so let's see how many. All right, Auschwitz body count, National Museum of the Holocaust. So victims of Auschwitz, 1.1 million. Auschwitz survivors, 0.02 million. I want to say, what is that, 20,000? All right, 1.1 for number 10. According to the videos, death camps were a nice place to live until people were sent to the showers. I hope we could answer this without the video. The answer is going to be false. They're not going to be treated well before going to the showers. They're going to be worked. They're going to be, even them getting food and whatever, that was for a very short time period. So, yeah.